Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Global Spiritual Healing Ministries Conversations, brought to you by Evangelist Marilyn Dawson, founder of Global Spiritual Healing. Our speaker this evening is Carla Scipio from I Am Carla Scipio, midwife. What are your credentials, Carla? I can't see them.
Registered nurse with a master's in public health.
All right. So, welcome everyone. I hope you're excited for our conversation tonight. Our conversation tonight is going to be menopause. And our speaker again is Carla Scipio. Welcome. The conversation is open to everyone. So, when it comes time for participation or questions, feel free. Everybody's voice is welcome. And we just ask for everyone to be courteous and respectful of everybody. And we just ask that we try to keep our comments at least to 3 to 5 minutes.
Do you see the PowerPoint?
Nope, I'd see it now.
Okay.
Everyone has a voice. Disclaimer: the views and opinions of the guest and everyone participating do not reflect the views and options of the conversation, the ministry hosts or co hosts. This is a forum to hear storytelling, have discussions, and gain insight of others' life's journeys and perspectives. We are clergy, medical, mental health, and social equity professionals, but this conversation is not intended to be a source of treatment or therapy to replace a therapist, pastor, or your doctor. Rules of the conversation: be respectful of everyone's conversation. Limit your remarks to 2 minutes. No negative comments. Raise your hand emoji if you want to speak. Everyone is muted until they speak. Everyone's conversation is important, even if it may not be your belief. Don't judge others. Topic: self love, self care. Co host: Carla M. Scipio, RN, MPH, is a public health consultant, educator, social entrepreneur, author, and public speaker devoted to achieving health equity for women and girls, midwife, birthing youth into purpose and destiny. Ah, whew, excellence, excellence in service. Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies. 1 Corinthians 6:19 through 20, King James Version. That's what God says. Evangelist Marilyn
Now,
Dawson, host.
without further ado, we just want to introduce the woman of the hour, Carla Scipio. And Carla, I'm so glad that we met over there in Atlanta, Georgia. And you are an amazing woman of God. Your bio doesn't really tell the depth of your anointing. And you have been there trying to do God's work and take care of his people for how many years?
As a nurse, probably about 38 years.
Yeah, so you are on the battlefield, front, back, and center. And your heart is the young women and the birthing crisis. I guess you'll explain a little bit about that as we go. But your specialty was labor and delivery. And
Right.
as a nurse, I was like, oh no, it had to be an anointing. Everybody can't deliver babies, right?
Right.
Everybody can't be with those mothers and go through all the stuff with those mothers and stuff. So I salute you, woman of God. And you are on this wonderful journey just helping us to find our way to healing. I'm just regretful that this wasn't a topic that was popular in my time. That everybody would just say hush hush or private, and I never understood what they were talking about. So now we have the opportunity. trained professionals to learn about this serious conversation, menopause. And so let me get your slides. And hello, Patricia.
How's
Oh,
everyone doing?
doing
Doing
great.
good.
How are
Good to
you?
see you. Good to see you. Ooh, look at all that hair.
My afro. Hey, Carla.
Yes, ma'am. How you doing, Miss Patricia?
I'm living. I made it on time.
Yep.
Hey,
No, you didn't. 5 minutes late.
thanks.
Well, that's
What
the
you got
time I'm
here?
supposed to be on, ain't it?
Okay. Can you see that PowerPoint, you guys?
No,
Barely.
Yep.
I see yours.
This is yours. You don't see mine?
I don't see.
Nope. I see 2 of 9. And I see female anatomy. And I see, but it's
Yeah, that's
small.
Carla's. That's Carla's. Do you see it?
Yes, now I do.
I'm not seeing
Two.
it at all.
Okay. There it is. That's the beginning. It keeps taking me back to that other one. I'll get it in a minute. Okay.
Why you
There we go.
looking
There
for?
we go.
Did you
Can
get
you
it?
see it, Carla?
No, I'm just seeing conversation. Everyone has a voice.
Well, it's screen sharing.
I'm seeing it.
Do you see it, Pat?
I see it says understanding menopause is a picture of a group of women.
Okay, so what am I doing?
Are you sharing?
No, you're sharing.
Yeah.
Okay,
But your
all I'm
computer isn't showing you. Well, just go to your presentation.
okay. You know what? Let me see it now. I see it now. I actually had it in the Let me go up to so I can make it larger. Okay. Give me 1 second.
You have it on your PowerPoint? Just turn your
No,
PowerPoint on.
I just want to make the zoom where I can see it. I'm trying to fix my view. No, now I'm not even seeing it at all.
Okay, Miss Carla, you're going to have to come on and tell me what the cure is because I'm flashing right now.
Listen. I'm trying to get it zoomed because I'm seeing both. So I'm trying to change my viewing option where I can go back to where I was before. But it's
You're
not
seeing my PowerPoint too?
okay. I'm gonna leave and come right back in.
Okay. Okay, we're excited about this topic.
Yes. It's a hot topic.
Jan, are you really flashing?
Yeah, I
Jan is
am.
muted. I guess she is. Oh my goodness.
Got my window open and
Well, this should be really good for you. Every now and then I might, but I know the things that trigger it. So if I stay away from the triggers, then I'm okay.
I still have a lot of mine. And in the last 2 weeks, I've been trying not to take my hormones to see if it made any difference because I was still having breakthrough hot flashes while I was taking it. But
all right, so I'm back. I'm so back.
Yay.
You know, Evangelist, you mentioned something while we were getting ready to look at the PowerPoint. You mentioned that it was whispered back in your times.
Yeah.
Fortunately, in 2024, we still have that issue.
Is
Many
it?
people see menopause as a secret. They see it like cancer of old. They
What?
whisper about it, and it's not just in. It's all over the world. I went home recently. I went to Trinidad recently, and the young lady was flashing. She said, "You're not warm," and I'm like, "I'm okay." And then she had to lean towards me, and she said, "Because I'm going through menopause." And I'm like, "Oh, what's wrong with us going through menopause?" You can go on to the next slide.
Yeah.
Because it's taboo. Because when you talk about going to menopause, for a lot of women, it was equated with being barren, being old and put out the pasture.
Yeah,
You think so?
and that's still how they view it now. They
Oh
see it
Lord.
as that still. So it's our responsibility to start talking about it. And
Yeah.
one of my favorite words is normalize it. Normalizing. So let me introduce myself. My name is Carla Scipio. I'm a registered nurse. With a master's in public health. My background has always been women's health. I did dibble dabble in college health, but my focus then was also women. I have worked in the community and in the hospital setting. My passion is definitely intergenerational conversations or even work where I pour my education, my experience, and utilize it to help other women who are up and coming, and even some women who are my age. Not everyone has the advantage of knowing a lot about their bodies.
Yep.
So,
That's
what
true.
is menopause? I said, okay, what is menopause? So, menopause is the cessation, the stop of having your menstruation. And I had a conversation today when I talked to my menopause involves all of women's health. The reason is when we talk about it, menopause starts from when we have our menstruation through our reproductive years up until we start the estrogen level and the progesterone level started changing. And so that involves our entire life. Because growing up as a girl, your ovaries is developing. Then you go through puberty. Then you start menstruating, and then like I don't want to. You gotta regulate how. Even if you're married, you gotta regulate when you have sex. Because I don't want to get pregnant, or you go on birth control until you get to that point where you feel free and liberated. Because now I don't have to worry about getting pregnant or anything. And then boom, you start having these symptoms. So menopause is a natural, now I want to put it out there that menopause is a natural biological process
Yep.
that marks the
Got
end
you
of the
that.
menstrual cycle. Formally diagnosed, it's usually diagnosed after a woman has gone 12 consecutive months without a menstrual period. So that's 12 months. Not I hit it 2 months and 6 months later I have another one. It's 12 months. Then you know that's behind me. Okay? So we have perimenopause. Well, let's start with early menopause. We have early menopause, and early menopause can be because of hereditary. It might be genetics. Your mother went through early menopause. Anything before the age of 45. There are times when we may have our womb removed or even our ovaries removed because our ovaries removed and then so that means we're not cycling anymore, and that's the end of our cycle period. So we go into early menopause. um Perimenopause is usually starts 7 years before menopause. It's when the ovaries gradually begin to produce less estrogen. And I tell people now when they're late 30s and 40s, and I can look back on it and think about when I started flashing. And I was like, okay, I'm just a little bit hot, not understanding that my body was beginning to go through the cycle of producing less and less estrogen. Um, it typically starts in women in their 40s, but it can start in the 30s as well. Symptoms like irregular periods and hot flashes begin, just like I said, that happened to me. And I want y'all to know that this is a conversation, it's a discussion. Um, so we can talk about the things that we went through and compare it to what we're talking about now. Menopause is the stage. Actually, menopause itself is the stage is reached when a woman hasn't had a menstrual cycle for 12 months straight. It is a time when the ovaries have stopped releasing eggs and producing and produces much less estrogen and progesterone. Menopause is often accompanied by symptoms such as hot flashes, go back, sleep disturbances, and mood swings. Postmenopause, these are the years after menopause. During this stage, menopausal symptoms such as hot flashes can cease for many women, and we were talking about Evangelist Dawson. Some women
Yeah.
still have flashes. However, as the body
Yes.
produces less estrogen, women are at an increased risk for a number of health issues such as osteoporosis and heart disease. And one of the things I tell people, this body is a complex mechanism that's dependent that's interdependent on different factors in the body. So we talk about the sex hormones, estrogen, and the different types of sex hormones that affect things in our brains, which sends a message to the signal in our ovaries, and it goes back and forth. That's how complex the body is and how it was created to function. Um, the most significant change is the reduction in estrogen and progesterone levels. These are the most significant changes that the body goes through. Estrogen and progesterone regulate menstruation, and the decline in these hormones is what leads to cessation in menstrual periods. We also have ovarian changes. The ovaries gradually lose the ability to release eggs, leading to decreased fertility and eventually to the end of ovulation. So, a lot of people, a lot of women, that's when they say change your life, babies. Well, oh, okay, I don't have a cycle. I'm not having a cycle right now. I'm good. And we have women having babies naturally at 47 and 46. And I can tell you, I have family members and friends my age that I went to school with that have two sets of babies. One when they were in their early 20s and one when they were in their mid 40s. So that's a
Oh
reality.
yeah.
So, and that's why people tend to save their eggs just in case. And then we also have a lot of other women having babies earlier. Some of the physical symptoms that the women experience are like hot flashes, night sweats, vaginal dryness, and changes in moods. Anybody have had any of these?
Only two of them.
Unfortunately,
Yeah, yeah. Low sex drive as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Low the
Low
libido.
libido.
Yeah, the libido. Bone density. The estrogen and progesterone also affects our bone. How the bone is manufactured. So that's why a lot of people it affects how the body uses calcium basically and other minerals that builds bones. So that's why we find a lot of black women and women in particular at that age start having fractures, easily fractures, having bone issues because of the um hormonal decrease in the hormonal levels or the changes in the hormonal levels. Another thing that we have to look at too is cardiovascular health.
Before
Estrogen
we
is
go
one.
that, can I say something about that bone density?
Yeah, go
In
ahead.
my nursing thing, it was that Black people were not at such a risk of bone loss and bone thinning and osteoporosis, but the Asian and white women were. And because we were big structured and all, they categorized us as low risk. And for me personally, I just got diagnosed last year and I didn't believe it. And my repeat this year showed I had thinning bones and osteoporosis. And I have never had a fracture in my life. I went to menopause in my late 40s, starting it. I've been on estrogen, which is your hormones, but that just is like the opposite of what they're saying. But it happens. It's just really a strange, complex thing.
Well, you kind of jumping ahead, but research has said recently that black women are more affected by that than white women. So I know that's what I
Mm,
learned. That's what I was taught in nursing school as well. But one of the things that we have to bear in mind from these research is that research are not done by us.
right.
that's
Not
right.
done on us.
We don't
And,
volunteer.
right. And because of our history of the way that they treated us in the past and that they treat us currently, we don't trust the researchers. So
That's right.
much
Right.
research wasn't what black women weren't used as subjects. Usually it's white men. and a little bit white women. But until we start having researchers that looks like us that participate in research, I think it's gonna kind of lag behind. But we can work on that. But
Okay.
but you did jump ahead because we're gonna talk about health disparities as it relates to Black women in menopause and some of the things that has been set up to um, encourage us to fail, to not do
Wow.
right and not do it well.
You said bone
So
thinning, and I know I'm going through that now. My goodness.
yeah, some statistics on Black women in menopause. You know, menopause statistics for Black women can vary based on factors such as geography, where you live, health status, how healthy you are, access to health care. Age of onset, they said, is slightly earlier compared to white women. On an average, menopause onset for Black women occurs around the age of 49. So
Yeah.
you were right on
Okay.
target when
Yes.
you said 40
Yep.
in your late 40s. That's
About right.
when we tend to report more frequent and severe menopausal symptoms, especially hot flashes. Studies
Oh.
suggest that they might experience hot flashes for more years compared with we may experience hot flashes for more years compared to other races or ethnicities. For me, the hot flashes didn't it started, but I didn't pay attention to it because it wasn't really severe. But I remember one day, and I tell stories that you all. I remember one day my son had taken me. I went to his church, and he was introducing me to one of the elders in the church. And while he was introducing me, he was looking at me, and he's trying to look around for tissue and or a napkin or something to wipe my face because I was sweating. Beads of perspiration was just running down. I'm like, I'm okay. I'm gonna be all right. But some of us have different symptoms. Some symptoms are more intense with some Black women, and some symptoms are not so. And I think we're gonna get to the part when we talk about taboos and myths, because you hear so much myths, so many myths and taboos about menopause as it relates to women. Period, not just Black, but women around the world that it's time for us to discredit it. And the only way we can do that is by having conversations like these or discussions like these. Um, so we talked about hot flashes, insomnia, waking up in the middle of the night,
Oh yeah.
can't go to sleep, you can't go to sleep, you go to sleep, you sleep for 2, 3 hours, you wake up and you're watching it kind of okay, well, maybe let me go do something. So insomnia is some of the things. What about mood changes?
Oh,
Anybody have some
definitely.
mood
It was ugly.
changes?
Definitely didn't
Not me.
understand what was going on. I just thought I say, what's going on with me? Why am I so irritable? And I remember when I first started going through the hot flashes, I was about 48, going into 49, and I was telling my doctor I thought I was having hot flashes, and my doctor kept insisting, "You're too young. You know that's not going to happen to you till you're like 55 or something." So I was going through those symptoms, but my doctor denying for me that I was going through it.
And then that
Wow.
brings us to the point, Evangelist Janice, the fact that they don't listen to us. Our providers don't listen to us. And often, a
They
lot of
sure
the
don't.
older ones are not up to date in current trends and things that has changed. So that's another issue that we deal with. So we talked about how flashes night sweat. Oh, the night sweats for me, y'all. I think I was taking 2, 3 showers a day. I would bathe before I go to bed, then I had to bathe when I get up out of the bed. I had to take a shower when I got out of the bed in the morning time because I put the covers on, I throw them off. I put the covers on, I turn the fan on, I turn it off, and that was my whole night.
Oh
Mm.
yeah.
That was my whole night.
Can I
Um,
confess something?
go ahead.
I always, for some reason, I guess lack of education. I always thought the hot flashes and night sweats were the same thing. One, they were the same thing. And then I started realizing that I'd be hot, but not sweat, but I felt like sweating. So I always think that they're the same. Are they the same?
I would say they are, but they're not. But for me, when I have the night sweats, I'm drenched. The
Yeah,
sheets are
I get that.
drenched.
But
Are
then
you
I'm
on
For,
the
hot when
for
I
sweat?
get
the
them. I be hot
for,
and flashing and I get the sweating. And then in the daytime, I'm hot. I just feel like I'm sweating, but not drenched, but
right.
I get really hot, like I'm on fire.
And what the nice was, I wasn't even feeling hot. I just woke up and it was drenched. With the hot flashes for me, it felt like I can't even explain. It was like a heat underneath my skin, but I couldn't pinpoint where the heat was coming from or what it was.
Yeah, it gets real hot, real fast.
Right.
Okay.
So we talked about the vaginal dryness, decreased moisture in the vaginal area, leading to discomfort. People talk about painful sex, discomfort during sex, sexual activity. What about weight gain?
Me and your belly.
All
Yes.
of us. um, Dry skin. Your whole. You keep having to put lotion on your skin or Vaseline, especially when you come out of the shower. And I think that led me to create my own skin butter because of the dry skin. So we talked about what about memory loss, y'all? Memory loss is a big one. Memory for me it is. I
It's for
feel like
everything.
I
That goes
had
with
to
a lot of
pray.
diseases.
Yeah. But specifically with us, I think when you get to that stage, you go into the room and you come downstairs and you go into the room and I can't remember why I came downstairs. And then I know as soon as I go back upstairs and I lay down, then I remember what I went downstairs for. So how did and I want you guys to tell me, how did these symptoms impact how you live your life? How did it impact your day? How did it what are some of the things that you went through and some changes that you had to make in your lifestyle? I know for me, like I said, I started taking 2 and 3 showers a day. How did it affect you?
For me, that last one you said, the memory loss, has been very big because memory loss comes from a lot of different things. And getting your doctor to listen to you, because they always say that, oh, it's normal for everyone to forget your keys or walk in the room, but they're not listening to you. Because when you start talking about it, it's something that's been really severe and noticeable for you. And I know that they say with the hormone loss, it you get the fog and the memory loss. But
Right.
when you have multiple symptoms, getting them to treat you and help you find the cause of it has been very difficult. And like I said, I'm trying to wean myself off of my estrogen because they say you're supposed to wean, but I haven't weaned. And I haven't noticed a difference in clarity and memory with or without it. It's just really frustrating that there's not very much help for you in the medical field for this. It's like it's a woman's problem or you're getting old.
For
Yeah.
me, I
I,
weathered my menopause by carrying big old mugs of ice and water around with me. Um, and then for me, going through this menopause, I realized I have an increase in facial hair. But then we don't talk about how the birth
okay.
control pills that they give you, if you don't know you already have a hormonal imbalance by the time that you get to menopause and you've already got that hormonal imbalance in place, and you start getting these facial hairs, it starts impacting your how you view yourself as a woman.
Good point. Good point. Excellent. And I like that because it also affects your mental health.
Yep, it does.
It
Absolutely.
also I think a lot of these affect our mental health. Even with the hot flashes, when you go to certain places where it's you want to turn the air conditioner on, but you can't get the air conditioner turned on because it may be in the middle of the winter. So some of that affects you in some form or fashion, or even with the sleep disturbances. I think how that affected me was the fact I was always tired.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I
your
was
rest.
always
Yes.
tired. And I would feel like I would like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I would feel so drained. Like, okay, how am I gonna make it until 5? How am I gonna make it until it's time for me to go home? Because it was so draining. The mood swings and the mental health, I remember when I knew my body so well, I can tell when I was ovulating, because I remember my ex-husband would tell me, he would say red lights. And that meant that anything he said or did or looked or whatever, it would send me I would take it I would go from 1 to 100. So these extreme mood swings, all of that stuff affects our mental health as well. Um, what about the dryness in the sexual activity, sexual health? It affects our intimacy with our partners, with our husbands.
I
You
haven't
know,
had that. I've only had hot flashes and night sweats once in a while. That is it. And like I said, the memory loss is it. But I also start off with very irregular periods my whole for reproductive life. So I just don't have only those are the only two, but they're so significant. I'm glad I don't have. So I mean, I can imagine having the fatigue, and you've got children to take care of.
Now you
yes.
mentioned sex drive. When for me, going through this menopause, I have less of a sex drive, and so that impacts my relationship because I'm not as active as my husband wants to be. So yes, that does impact that relationship.
And right, and those are some of the conversations that we need to have to discuss, even with our providers or in spaces like this where we're trying to what worked for you, what didn't work. And I know we're gonna get to natural remedies, and we're gonna get to the hormones. I know you mentioned birth control and that you're taking estrogen. Now I chose not to take estrogen because at that time it talked about the how excess estrogen affects your body. So
And
I
the breast
choose
cancer.
right. So I chose not to and I'm a one person that can say that I've never taken birth control. And a lot of people don't understand how birth control works. Birth control fools your body into thinking that you're pregnant.
But
And it affects that I believe that natural cycle that that was created for us to have babies along that continuum. But one thing I wanted to mention too, when we talked about and this menopause is not just a one time conversation. It's so many things that we have to talk, so many issues, so many concerns that it has to be an ongoing series of things that we sit down and we talk about. Body image issues. That's another thing with gaining that weight. You can't understand. You're eating the same amount of food. You're trying to move. You may be tired too because you can't exercise or you don't have enough energy to exercise. That too affects your self esteem and how you see yourself. And we're as Black women, we are already face societal issues. The way that we're seen, the way that we're treated, and then couple that with chronic diseases. The high blood pressure, the diabetes, it's even more, it adds more to our plate. We talk about stress, increased stress and anxiety. So now that we're talking about Black women, I think you can go to the next slide. And this is probably gonna just remember this menopause is an opportunity, okay? So you can go on to the next slide. You can go on. You can go on. So let's talk about, you can stay right there. So let's talk about cultural perspective. In the African American community, what are some cultural attitudes that you guys, or that you have heard that we have as it relates to menopause?
As Evangelist Dawson said, we just didn't talk about it. You know, when we're talking about it now, it makes me think I've got a young daughter. My mother never talked to us about going through menopause, and I'm sure it was for her with her mother. So that this gives me that space to begin thinking there's something I need to be discussing with my daughter so that she knows what to expect, to know those warning signs, those symptoms.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head, Evangelist Janice. Silence and secrecy, and I'm gonna say this for them on their behalf. They didn't have the knowledge, and I know when you read and you hear the talk, they said she would, menopause saying her crazy. She crazy because of that menopause. That changed your life, baby. That's why that baby look like that, because it's a change of life, baby. Um,
what? A change of
so
life, baby.
yeah,
Oh, huh?
And they equated that to the change of life, baby. But it says here, despite the respect for aging, there's often a lack of open dialogue about the physical changes that accompany menopause. This silence can stem, as it relates to Black people, African Americans. This silence can stem from privacy norms or the belief that women's health issues should not be publicly discussed. As a
Yep.
result, many Black women might not seek or receive adequate information or support during menopause. And you're right, Evangelist. They didn't talk about it. We didn't have anyone to go to for support, and you just dealt with it on your own.
Well,
And
we don't, but the other cultures don't really talk about it either because, I mean, as you
no,
talk about silence, I don't recall talking to any woman of any culture about it, but just seeing us all suffer silently and being relegated to, oh, it's just a woman's thing. And we talk about our parents didn't know that much. We're just scratching the surface now, but I don't remember talking about it. You just saw people fanning and moving away from other people when they start getting hot.
Well, I think some of it in our culture might be a part of the slave trauma. And then
yeah,
if you're a slave and then suddenly you start having this menopause, and then maybe they feel like you might get killed or something because you're useless.
right,
So you
You
don't talk about it, and nobody talks about it. If it's taboo because if the master finds out that you going through the changes, I can just hear the conversation now. Then he
I
might
gotta
put you out the pastor.
I don't think that would matter because you just wouldn't be able to have children, but you can still work. You just tell get your lazy self up, and on those days you're feeling tired, he probably say get your lazy butt up and go. But as far as
It
culture,
probably
I think
affected their physical strength because they're probably not. They're already beat down, but they're not sleeping at night. It's already hot. They don't have air conditioning.
right,
Yeah,
right.
and so I mean, probably it really aged them.
well, we don't even know because no one talked about it that much. On the cultural side, some of the
But they probably
positive
said
things is
don't
that,
talk about it because the master going to hear you talking. So they
well,
were,
on
if
the
maybe it
positive
was a
side,
fear that was brought into our community of being sold or something. I don't know. A lot of this stuff that's happening that we don't talk about is because we were slaves.
well, but when your menopause comes, you're old. You're getting older aged anyway. But the positive thing about our culture, I would think, is that I mean, if you look at some of the holistic things they have today, um, think about the herbs and things they use in our culture that probably help them. And I remember when I first started, you were talking about the yams and things, and
Yep,
and
wild
that stuff
ham.
never helped me. But
But
but when
but
I think
I
about
think too that a lot of research hasn't been done, and a lot of knowledge that should have been handed down to us
mm-hmm.
because of being enslaved and the things that they went through, it didn't make it to us.
Yeah,
And so, and then one of the things that I want to go back to what you said, and not just Black women. I feel like this menopause issue is a woman issue.
yeah,
Yep, it is.
Women, no matter where you are in the world, and that's why in places like Great Britain now, they actually women like us are actually speaking up and speaking out and demanding time because most of the political leaders and the people in leadership are men, and they don't know what we go through. And it comes with the whole menstrual cycle to the end issue where they tax you for tampons, they tax you for menstrual pads, they tax you for all of these things. Those things should not be taxed. Those things should at least, because it's a large income driven stuff, and a lot of people can't afford to pay for that. But the thing is that we have to be united as one, as women, to stand up for ourselves and to be more knowledgeable. But we also have to look at the cultural attitudes. I think one of the things for us right now is strength and resilience. We go around and people tend to see us as, which is not true because we hurt like everybody else, is that
Yep.
we're strong.
yeah,
The strong Black woman, the resilient, and we celebrate strength. But we enjoy this, so we are in pain, and we have to
yeah,
acknowledge that we're in pain, and we have to acknowledge that, hey, we got to do something. We got to talk about it. We got to talk about it. We got to talk about it at home. We got to talk about it in the schools. We got to talk about it in the government. We got to talk about it in organizations, in corporate America. We need to bring it to the fore because symptoms like this tend to floor some people. We may be able to fake the funk, but people are not and not every woman is able to do that. So, some of the taboos and myths we talked about this earlier. Some taboos and myths about menopause is that menopause is a sign of aging.
Mm-hmm.
The way I see it now, menopause is a sign of freedom.
Yes.
Menopause is an opportunity for us to do things that we've never done before. It's an opportunity that you feel like, hey, I'm grown now. I can speak up and speak my truth. Um, we can have these conversations. It's time for us to learn so we can, like Evangelist Jan said, have conversations with our daughters and our granddaughters about what we went through and what we can do. Um, so we do talk about the disparities, the fact that access to quality health care and
Oh, that's a
quality
big one.
providers who would listen, and then us too knowing how to speak to our providers to let them know this is what I need. This is what's going on with me. And I need you to hear. This is when it started. This is how long it's been going on. This is how it makes me feel. And sometimes we have to do our own research for ourselves. When you talked about the yams and those natural remedies that ooh that those natural remedies that we need to utilize to help us.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, going back, I'm going to step back because just hearing this conversation, it makes me realize that women's health is in general is secrecy, shrouded in secrecy. When I think about even, it's just been a natural progression. When you think about when you first started your menstrual cycle, it was secrecy. For some women, it brought shame, and so it was secrecy. So that secrecy and not talking and sharing was even back then, and then so how much more when you get into that menopausal stage.
Right, right, and it's time. And I'm always a community advocate and activist. It's time for us to change the dialogue. Um, I think community education and awareness, having community support groups to have conversations around this, um, healthcare provider training.
Yeah, that's good.
Those are some of the things. And then us being able to challenge and change the cultural norms. Let's talk about barriers to healthcare for us. Barriers to healthcare, and I can say because I've been a nurse, I've always, well, not necessarily, there were times when I couldn't afford, even as a nurse, to have healthcare for myself and for my children. I had to make a choice because I became a single parent. And the decision was, do I pay this $230 a month, or do I take this towards food and clothing and things that they needed? And
Yeah.
I had to, there was a hard decision that I had to make. My children would tell you, well, sometimes my mama treated us with home remedies and a little bit of something. But that's the choice that I had to make. So we're talking about economic barriers to quality and access. Then where we live too determines to quality care. And then, are there any providers? Are there any
Yes.
competent providers? And are there providers that looks like me and you?
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're talking about the cultural barriers and the secrecy surrounding it. Not only if even if you had health insurance and you had providers, it was a shame of I don't want to go and tell a doctor that I'm having this problem, or is my period normal? Who do I tell? Or oh,
Right,
I shouldn't. My parents say keep things to yourself. Should I? I have to go and expose my body to somebody I don't know.
right. So
It's
those are
that
some of the things we
fear.
do. Right. And even cultural competency, going in and seeing a provider that doesn't look like me and already has a bias towards me, not me personally, but to women who look like me. That's an issue
Yeah.
right there as well. That's now their big movement is going on that talks about the maternal morbidity. the rising crisis, because
Yeah.
we've gone away from how the birthing used to be, and the things that we did with the midwife grannies, and even things that came down with us from across the seas. We no longer do that. Birthing was a woman's thing. The women in the village participated in that. They
Yeah.
supported her even after, during the postpartum stage.
Yep.
So
Yep.
That is true.
we're
Well,
dealing
the
with racial
laws and
bias,
legislation.
right? So we're dealing too with discrimination,
Absolutely.
bias, limited research, like I said before, limited representation, and also geographical limitations. There's less quality providers in rural places. In the South, the Southeast is running rampant, all the different things. Some of the things that impact our lives is delayed diagnosis and treatment for a lot of things.
Yeah.
I guess I've run
Access
into
to
some
quality
horrible
health.
healthcare providers in my time because, we're talking about, going and getting, things to help treat. And I remember asking this one white doctor that was female that was treating me for some estrogen. And she said to me, "How are you going to afford some estrogen when you can't afford to come see me?"
Oh no. No, no, she didn't.
Hmm.
Yes, she did.
What? That's
No,
not cute. That's not cute.
it's
That's
not.
total bias right there.
That's
So
unprofessional for her to
it
say something
is.
like that.
But that's standard, that's norm. That's what they do. That's how they see us. That was just her showing that this is how I think. This is how I see you. Are you so poor you can't afford me? So how are you gonna afford this? So I don't have to do it for you. And
Mm.
this is a conversation that
That's
we can
unfortunate,
talk
boy.
about. It's really unfortunate. So some of the things for us with the delayed diagnosis and treatment is reduced quality of life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have these menopausal symptoms, things that's been going on, and our quality of life is decreasing. So that's why we're dying.
Mm.
Yeah.
Compounded with the stress and anxiety that we deal with every single day that we get up.
I'll tell you
The
next, you
trauma.
feel
Most of
really
us are
anxious
living
when you
through our
go.
trauma.
Yeah, it's traumatic when you go to some OBGYNs being of different, because I mean, when I was going in my reproductive age, it has been most of the providers were white men, old white men, um, or middle-aged Korean or Japanese, and you're going in there and you wondering, what are they going to think about me? I got these big breasts. I got what are they going to think about my skin and all that? You just all this fear and uncertainty, and you're sitting there worried about your physical health, your reproductive health. But you've got these biases and things built in, and your fear. It's a traumatic experience the first
But
time you
see,
go.
it is. That's a good point. That's an excellent point. It made me think about a delivery that I had, and I will always remember this delivery because I always remember the patient. And the doctor was a Jewish doctor from Brooklyn, and this is a young black girl. I believe it may have been her first baby. And he came in to do, I'm not sure if he was her doctor during the pregnancy, but he worked with a group. And he came in to do the vag exam to get ready to deliver the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And he was so rude and rough. And he actually put his entire hand, now, I'm a labor delivery nurse, but this is how you do it. He
Yeah.
put his entire hand up into that child.
Oh my goodness.
And the significant other was standing there, and he was ready to fight him. And he made security come and put him out of the room. So just think about how that man felt, that
Yes,
he could even defend
his woman.
his woman
Mm,
because of
mm,
this.
mm, mm,
So
mm.
we that's a conversation to be had.
It
Let's
is.
talk. I know in the interest of time, we're gonna move on to medical treatment for menopause.
You want
Now,
me to turn?
we talked about the hormone replacement, the hormone replacement therapy, in which involves supplementing estrogen and progesterone, the hormones that decrease during menopause, that decreases during menopause. It's one of the most effective treatments for managing symptoms like hot flashes, night sweats, and vaginal dryness. Um, while it's highly effective, but it's not suitable for everyone because it
Right.
increases the risk of certain health conditions like blood clots. We talked about some types of cancer. Um, and I tell women before they consider HRT that they should think about all the risks and the benefits. Do the benefits outweigh the risks? I chose not to do the hormone therapy, and but like I said, everybody's menopause journey is different. It's unique to that person. It's unique to where they are. It's unique to their genetics. Different socioeconomic status, health conditions. All of that is unique. Some non-hormonal medications that they use also is antidepressants. They use low doses of a certain antidepressants. Can also
Really?
help. They can also help reduce menopausal hot flashes and tend to help stabilize the mood swings. And the mood swings, I'll tell anybody, is real. It's
Yeah.
so real. It's so real. Gabapentin is one of those. Gabapentin is used to treat seizures, but it can also reduce hot flashes.
Wow.
Hmm.
Clonidine, typically used to control high blood pressure. Clonidine can also alleviate some of menopausal symptoms like hot flashes. I know for me, some of the popular non-hormonal and natural remedies were utilizing different herbs like black cohosh,
Yeah.
um, red clover.
Again.
What was it, donkey? The female ginseng that also works. I think one of the biggest things I tell people is diet management. When you talked about estrogen is also found in soy products. That's why they tell you not to give the boy children soy because it contains so much estrogen in it.
Yeah, that was my treatment.
However, it's effective and safe, so that soy helps.
Yeah.
Red clover also has plant estrogen in it. And I kind of feel like the if God wanted us to do certain things, he wouldn't have given us the tools that he gave us, the natural remedies. So exercise helps as well. It helps reduce weight gain. Exercise improves your moods. The dopamine definitely helps. It also strengthens your bone. Stress management. They talk about meditation, but I meditate in the word. Deep breathing. I encourage people a lot to start utilizing the deep breathing. Deep breathing helps a lot with stress and anxiety. Um, what else did I? They said a good um some of other foods that you can use are the phytoestrogen foods like soybean, tofu, flax seeds, sesame seeds, um, that can help balance the hormones. Calcium and vitamin D, you get them in the spinach, green leafy spinach, and some fortified foods. So you drink a whole lot of water, regular aerobic exercise,
Yeah.
strength training,
Dehydration triggers it.
flexibility, mindfulness, adequate sleep. But it's hard to say adequate sleep when it makes you wake up. So even social activities, going out and being around and doing things that you love. Your hobbies can also help as it relates to your emotions. And mental health is really important. Good mental health.
Hmm.
So that
Yeah.
means seeking professional help, support groups, communication, having open conversations with family and friends. Being able to have an open conversation with your mental health therapist. But each of us here on the line and those who are watching in, we also play a role in this because we can empower others by sharing our information on menopause. And
Well, I think
community
we got to
support.
really talk to our young adults, like Jan was saying. We got to talk to our young daughters and begin to make it a beautiful ritual. Actually, just
And
like with the ministration, a lot of cultures make it a big, big party ritual or something. And I think that as we start embracing and doing that in our culture, it could become a thing.
I
right.
think that I think that what's happening now, because I remember, talking about taboos and things. I remember the first time I saw the ad for Always and Codex on TV and how shocking that was. And look at now today, they're talking about things more openly. But one thing that's making me wonder about opening up and talking about health and women's issues is this political thing about abortion bans and things, because I didn't realize all the health benefits these clinics and things had and how it tied into the subject we're having. Because a lot of people with low incomes depend on a lot of those clinics for their um, health, health needs and things. And as we start talking more about those issues, maybe they'll start including things like menopause and things for everybody. It won't be closed door issues.
And I agree with you. We have to, when we see menopause, to me that's like the end of the line. I feel like we need to start from the beginning to the end. The menstrual health. And I'll tell you, one of the things I learned as a college health nurse was that these young women didn't know anything about their cycles. They didn't know anything about their bodies. They were afraid to even touch their bodies. And
Yep.
and I tell them, I said, you can tell when you're ovulating. You can tell by the mood swings. Your vaginal discharge changes. The color changes. You can even simple things like you can tell when something is not right when it has that odor. It doesn't smell. If it has the odor, then something's wrong. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't know about the breast changes. They didn't even know about the the ovulation cycle, how the ovaries releases the egg, the oocyte. It releases the egg. Each ovary takes turns and something. I think somebody shot me a question about that the other day. And sometimes some ovaries do both at one time. When we talk about twins, or maybe two come from one ovary. So
Mm-hmm.
having these kind of conversations about, and this is some of the things I did when I worked in college health, was actually sitting down and talking about this. I even bought the poster board to show them, to teach them. And the big thing was they wanted to go out, everything they wanted to do was about sex, but it was actually utilizing that as an opener to talk about why, the reasons why they should take care of themselves.
Yes, yes, it's
Not
all included. It's
right.
just one big
We're not
thing.
right. We're not focusing on the risk. We're focusing on the reasons why we should do this. And this is how we do this. And this is why we do this. And because we didn't do this, this is lost, but we're going to make sure that you guys know about this.
Yes, because we need knowledge to help ourselves.
Most definitely. So I thank you guys. I thank you, Evangelist Marilyn Dawson, for allowing me the space and time to come and have a conversation with you and the other women online, Evangelist Janice and Pat, Patricia, and everybody that's looking on. Why it's so important for us to talk and to start the change and be the change. You have to be the change maker.
Yeah, you have
You got to
to.
make it happen. Stop sitting down and waiting for somebody else to do it. It's your turn. You
Yep.
up.
Come on now,
Yes,
Carla. Well, thank you so much for that very informative menopausal information. And you're going to have to come back and continue to tell us about our OBGYN wellness, or how do you say it? What is it? Our women's wellness. It really is a
Women,
women's.
I call it women's well-being because
Yeah,
we talk about the different dimensions of women. We talk about that the mental, the emotional, the physical, the social, which is important, the cultural, the historical. Now I've actually added historical because that has always been part of my stuff. My mantra. Because if you don't know who you are and where you've been, we're gonna end up in the same place. So we need to teach the young people about their history. All
Yeah.
of that stuff
Yes.
that was
Once
lost.
we learn it, because we're
Right.
still struggling to find out who's
So
who.
that's why we got to do our research and we got to learn. Because I'm still learning. Someone sent me a book on Alice Walker book, and it talked about In Search of Our Mother's Garden. And I started reading that book, and it really touched me because it talked about the women that walked before us. I'm talking about our grandmothers and our great grandmothers and their great great grandmothers who weren't able to do what we're doing today. That's why it's our responsibility to make sure we go out and take advantage of all the opportunities that's available for us to take advantage now. Because
Yeah.
my grandmother wasn't allowed to go to school. But now I went to school, and I expect my children, my daughters and my sons, to go to school, and my grandchildren to go to school and continue their legacy. So we're doing this not just for those that's coming behind us, before us, well, behind us rather, but we're doing this for those who poured into us and made it possible for us to be here. Just think about how they feel when they weren't able to express themselves. They weren't able to say no. They had to go and do what they were told to do.
Yep. Yep. And they didn't get to see no doctor.
No. And they would
Mm.
and one of the things that people have to learn as well, they called the father of obstetrician gynecology. Actually used black women slaves without anesthesia to practice and to learn. And that was painful to them, and it's painful to me even as we
Mm.
speak. So it's important that our people, our young people, know this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mm. 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 Deep conversation. Deep.
Wow. Well, our time is upon us, but yes, Carla, thank you so much. We're gonna have to have you back. And Carla's also with us on Saturday evenings when we have our Altar to the Throne Tabernacle Prayer. Yay! Men must
Yay.
always pray and not faint. And we get up on the wall and we pray without ceasing. And
Hallelujah.
so join us on Saturday at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for an hour of prayer into the throne room of God. Ooh, it's powerful prayer. And
Mm.
we're really needing prayer now with all the things that are going on in this world. And coming up in October 11th to 13th, is going to be Resuscitation
Ooh.
Colorado 2024. And so if you take your phone and you click on that QR code, it'll take you to the Eventbrite page where you can take a look at our upcoming event and register and come on out, Pat. You and Tiana.
We have to see how things go. It would
Oh
be
yeah,
nice if
just
it was
ask
actually.
God. It says that if you have not because you
And it
ask not.
works.
So
It works.
I just
It
told
works.
God that I need it. Does it work?
It
Yay!
works. Yes, it
Thank you.
works.
You helped me, Carla Bigley. So thank
Um,
you. We're gonna be rolling right along, and so our
Ooh,
next
ooh.
conversation will be in 2 weeks, and we'll be popping up Janice Kirkley.
Yeah.
uh-oh. Well, I hope I can do as wonderful job as Carla, our speaker tonight, because I had 5 questions written down and she answered every last single one of them.
What? That Carla is
Yeah,
anointed for this. She's gonna
yeah.
bring us
I
into
learned a whole
wellness
lot
of
too.
all dimensions. Yay!
I learned a
Yeah.
lot. Thank you, Carla.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
guys for
Carla.
coming out. Thank you for your
Yeah.
support.
Oh yeah, we can't hardly wait to see more of Carla Scipio. You're contagious. Your depth of knowledge and the way that you deliver and everything is just wonderful. So thank you
Thank you.
again. Just thank
Thank
you.
you.
And let's see. Carla, pray us out, won't you please?
Yes, Father, we come before you this evening just joyous and
Yeah.
peaceful and thankful and grateful for this space, Lord. I pray that you are able to go forth and touch the lives of every woman, oh God. Just spread the word throughout the nation, throughout the world, oh God, that we are here, that we love our sisters, and that, oh God, awaken them awaken them to
Yeah.
what is in store, Father. So we just thank you for the space. I thank you for the founder and the owner and the women that are dedicated for pushing this conversation out into the world so women can be healed, they can be set free, and they
Yeah.
can be what you have called them to be in
Yeah.
such a time as this. And Lord, we
Such
shall
a
give
time as
you
this.
all the glory, all the honor, and all the praise. And it's in your son's name that we pray. Amen. Amen.
Man, amen.
Amen.
Good night, everybody. God
Good
bless you. And
night.
Night,
keep
God bless
everybody.
you. Good night.